Korean food has now found a place in the global culinary world. Still in its initial stages, more and more Korean food is found in supermarkets all around the world, and Korean restaurants are popping up everywhere. Here in Korea, there is one restaurant that has taken Korean ingredients and elevated it into the world of fine dining and earned a Michelin star for its effort. On this special edition of The Globalist, we are here at Evett, the Michelin-starred innovative restaurant, to talk with its Australian chef and owner, Joseph Lidgerwood. Thank you, Joseph, for inviting us to your lovely restaurant, Evett. It is a wonderful atmosphere here, cozy.
Thank you. Yes, we only have little 5 tables, so it does feel quite cozy and special in here.
Yeah, but it's sort of decorated with a lot of your Korean ingredients.
Yes.
You can't smell it, but we can smell what we were saying. It's a fermented soybean brick.
Yes.
This is used to make doenjang, the soybean paste, the soy sauce, and the red pepper paste.
And the red pepper paste. So it's kind of creates so many different fermentations.
True. So tell us about your ingredients. You are known for using Korean ingredients.
Yes.
I mean, we talked about bean bricks.
Yes.
But what are the other kind of ingredients you think about Korean ingredients that I am going to use?
Yeah, I think for me, the ingredients that I like to show are ingredients that are just very specific to Korea. So ingredients that don't really have many outside presence. So stuff like you were saying before, Meju, but also stuff like durup.
Durup, this is durup, right?
Yes, this is durup here. This is just in season now. I think this is like the 2nd week. So this is angelica root.
Whereabouts in Korea is this from?
This will be from, all the shoots now will be from Gyeonggi-do. They're the first kind of area.
In the near Seoul area.
Near Seoul, I guess East Coast, for people who aren't familiar with Gyeonggi-do. This type of season you'll get durup, or you'll get all the mountain vegetables, the myeongina물, all those kind of garlic shoots and everything. And this is actually a part of a tree. So this will be a tree in its first spring shoots coming out.
I thought it was from the
There's two.
ground.
There's dung durup and then there's this durup. So this one's actually a tree.
It's like a branch.
Yeah, it's a branch, and that's kind of as we're warming up, this is shooting out. But then you also have the one there, but that one has a lot more thicker stem.
Yeah. And this, I know.
Yes. So this is obviously from the east. This one here coming from a lot warmer area, Jeju. Hopefully people have heard of that one. Yeah, it's just a explosion of citrus.
Vitamin C in your mouth.
Yes, it is exactly. Who needs the tablets when you've got those?
And these were in season.
Yes. So for our menu here, and I think it's one of the questions that we get asked a lot, is when do we change the menu? Is it season by season? But seasons don't start and finish on a day. It's not suddenly spring is today. It can feel like spring is starting, but we have these kind of overlap of seasons, and we have micro seasons within that. Like for Yuja, for example, it's only around for 3 or 4 weeks and it's gone. So we have this start and finishing of a season here.
Yeah. I see something that doesn't have that much of a season. This is Doenjang.
Yes, this is
This is a staple. This is what comes out of this.
Yeah, this is the fully formed version of this one here, this is 4 years now,
4 years old?
Which isn't much for Doenjang, to be honest.
It smells like cheese.
Yes, it definitely does smell like cheese. I think This one, it's a lot darker than it should be for 4 years. I think they have a thing obviously in Korean called sonmat. So when you're making the flavor of your hand. So when we were making these out of the thing and breaking them up to see if the mold had gone through nicely, you're imparting your love into that thing, and
so every person touching it gives it a different flavor.
Exactly. And then even the chefs that we bring down and we check their Doenjang or their fermented soybean paste, and they're side by side in the same area, the same recipe, and they'll be completely different. So very, very cool, I think.
Yeah. So it's the taste of the hand.
Taste of the hand, sonmat.
Are taste of the hands of Westerners different from the taste of the hands of Koreans?
Supposedly so. Mine tasted like cheese, and the lovely lady who we made this with, the Myeongin, which is artisan, I guess. The culturally recognized artisans of Korea, which I think is a great way to uphold tradition. She's never seen one like that before, so.
So it definitely has your Australian sonmat in it.
Yes, it has my Australian sonmat into it.
This is, I mean, of course, wonderful in itself, but I'm sure you use it in various main as well as dessert dishes.
Definitely. Well, citrus is just one of those very versatile ingredients, and it kind of, very rarely you see the ingredient in its fully formed item. You wouldn't see this on a plate. It will be in a marinade, in a dressing, in a sauce, in something else that we kind of just layering up the flavors.
Well, it's hard to say in front of these wonderful ingredients, but what is your favorite ingredient?
Oh, he can't pick one, but if I had to, I would have to say this one here.
Oh.
Because I just think that jang is at the center of all Korean food. Like, not just this guy in particular, because I made it, but most of Korean food, I think jang is the essence of it. That paste.
So the paste, whether it comes from soybeans or red pepper.
Yeah, but it's in so much food. And dishes that have it in it, it's just you'll see it pop up in so many dishes, and I think it's just like one of the foundation building blocks of Korean cuisine. For people who haven't tried it, I think it's just an explosion of flavor in your mouth. It is just intense savoriness. It's obviously a salted product, so it has a high salinity to it, but it is just intense and rich and deep.
Is there anything on the menu tonight of these?
We have 16 courses, so everything's always on the menu.
Whoa.
So seasonally, we have a rotating menu. Lunch and dinner are differently. If you need me to prepare anything today, I could do the signature.
What is the signature?
It'll be the Meju donut. So a donut made from Meju.
Oh, wow. That's so pretty.
Oh, thank
you. That's the prettiest presentation of a bean brick that I have ever seen. What is the dish?
This is inspired by heart of Korean fermentation, which is soybean paste. So this is fermented soybean brick. On top is the donut made from that. Inside is filled with a caramelized cream. On top is a black garlic puree. And on top of that is a edible rice cake that has been inoculated with mold. The reason why we put it on there is because this bean brick is a living thing. It has this mold and gives it that kind of terroir of where it's from, and we wanted to showcase that on top of the donut. So a little cheers there to the little donuts. You can taste the Meju?
Yes. I can taste a little bit of the fermentation. The sweet comes from the garlic.
Yes, definitely. In Korean cuisine as well, it's like the sweet savory is very prominent. It's just a nice way to go into the first course. So this will be a little snack.
It cleanses your palate and then gets you excited for the courses to come.
Yes.
I heard the story about why a Australian chef would be here. What was it about Korean food in particular that drew you to Korea?
Something of pure excitement when you're working in America or Australia or UK. Very great produce, very great restaurants, but all the same ingredients. You have this kind of palette to work with of ingredients. It's kind of like colors. You can only mix the certain colors a certain amount of times to get the same kind of picture. But here it was just like a completely different color palette. It was this enormous kind of excitement around the ingredients, and then thinking, why is there no one talking about Korean ingredients?
Why was no one talking about Korean ingredients?
I still, to this day, think about that very question, because it is, for me, quite insane the amount of amazing ingredients that we have in Korea that are just nowhere else, and that have just an amazing flavor profile.
I was thinking about that, you know, if you took the care that you seem to take in really seeking out these ingredients in Korea, I mean, for example, in Tasmania or any other part of the world, wouldn't you uncover these wonderful secret ingredients? I mean, is it unique to Korea?
Some of the ingredients are just extremely unique to Korea, and kijoge, monge, doenjang, like gennip, those ingredients there, I've never seen them anywhere else. And then I think that's something that is, yeah, very, very cool.
Well, but your food isn't really traditional Korean food.
Definitely not.
How would you describe your food?
That is one of the hardest things, because we're not a Hanshik restaurant, we're not a Korean restaurant. I don't think Western restaurant gives it enough kind of context. I would say our restaurant is a Korean ingredient-based restaurant that tries to showcase it in a different way. The food that we do here is creative and innovative in a way to provoke people to think more about the ingredients we have in this country. If you could find a nice title for that and package that.
I've heard it described as innovative.
Yes, maybe I'm just overcomplicating it here.
But, you know, innovative is a very broad word. So you're being innovative with Korean ingredients. These ingredients, you know, some of what you've shown us, I guess in Korea have been around for a long time, but even Koreans find your ingredients sort of surprising. You talk about doenjang, but it's not your, you know, I have doenjang in my refrigerator, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's a different kind.
Using doenjang as an example, I think as close to the traditional as possible, and then transforming that into something different. For example, we made a doenjang when we first came here in 2029. That's on the menu now with a duck serving, and it's mixed with rice, but the whole presentation and the whole approach is completely different. So you have the same flavors of doenjang and rice, but it's put in a different aspect. I think that's the approach that people are very surprised by.
So you bring in your culinary experience and training into Korean ingredients.
Yes.
Do you bring Australian and Tasmanian aspects into it?
I haven't for the longest time. Like, I'd worked at a lot of really good restaurants, and kind of I don't want to say the trick, but the way to put a good menu together is just load it with luxury, caviar, truffles, foie gras, and then incorporate that in, and everyone will be happy. But when I came here, I made a conscious decision not to use any foreign ingredients. Like, we have small amounts of this and that, but the whole theme would be Korean. But recently we've started to incorporate some of my background of Tasmania into certain aspects. Like, we have a Korean alcohol pairing at the restaurant, and we make a Korean alcohol for that one, and it's like a tukju with Tasmanian pepperberries. So it's like a Tasmanian pepperberry tukju, because it's only native to Tasmania, so that's kind of my heritage. Now that I feel comfortable that we have explored Korea enough, that we have a good base, that we can kind of just start to add a little bit.
I think I heard you once say it's not Korean food with caviar on it.
Yes. I kind of get in a little bit of trouble for that sometimes.
Well, because there's Korean-made caviar as well.
Yes, there is. Yes, there's some very good caviar. But for me, that doesn't ring Korea. When I think of caviar, I don't think Korea. So that's more the context of that.
But don't you also get a little, flack a little bit about maybe losing the authenticity of Korean ingredients?
I think that was kind of a lot of people's concern when I was going into opening the restaurant, because I'm not from Korea. And the way that each ingredient, there's very, I don't want to say fixed perceptions, but there's certain ingredients that just go with certain dishes, and there's not much room for movement around that. But the reception of me using Korean ingredients and the feedback from the guests, particularly Korean guests who were just astounded by the creation and stuff like that, has kind of kept me moving forward with that.
And has the fact that you're not Korean helped you become more creative with the use of Korean ingredients?
I think so. I can only see the one side, so I can't really compare if I was Korean. But I think so, because some days I will get an ingredient and I'll start cooking and I'll do stuff, and then I'll hear the other side of, oh, we actually, when I was a kid, we used to cook it like this from a Korean person. And not having that in my zeitgeist, it kind of lets me be able to create kind of anything.
You've had a very fast development track. You opened your restaurant in 2019.
Yeah.
A year later, you got your first Michelin star.
Yeah.
COVID hit. But in the midst of that, you also got their first young chef, Michelin's Young Chef Award.
Yes.
How do you process all of this? What is an Australian-born chef doing here?
I think how to process that, it's tricky, right? Because you come in and you just want to do the food, and then we're doing really well and we're getting these great accolades and everything like that. And they're always hard to accept awards, I think, because most awards are based on one person gets them. And within a kitchen and within a brigade and within a team, you're always going to have the front people, but it's a massive team effort. So that's always always trying to offload credit to the team. And then, why I'm here and what I'm doing. Sometimes life just leads you down paths, and I think you need to go with your gut feeling and take opportunity and adventure when you see it.
One of the things unique that I see you doing is I see you actually really going around Korea to explore ingredients and to talk to people about how they use their ingredients, how it comes about. So you've not only discovered Korean ingredients, but you've discovered a lot of Korean people.
Yes.
That have grown and used these ingredients. How has that affected your cooking?
Well, I think that's the most important part. Like when we travel around to get inspiration for the menu, it's never the ingredients, it's the people connected to the ingredients that give it so much life and give it so much color. When we go down and visit the Myeongin and learn about this or that, it's their stories and their appreciation for the ingredient that gives it so much merit and so much like, wow, they're putting so much love into this ingredient. And that's normally where we will get the inspiration to do a dish, where we will kind of be transforming their stories and their passion into our food.
Could you share a story with us about any trip that you've made? Jeju?
There's some fun ones. When I very first came, because I came for a small pop-up, as you mentioned before, 2016, I went to go dive with the Haenyos, but they said I would slow them down too much. And if anyone knows Haenyos, there was a bit of an age gap between us there. So
it's a wonder they didn't eat you up.
No. So I had to sit. They wouldn't let me swim with them because I would slow them down. Yeah. So I sat by the little rocks, waiting for them to finish up, so I could see a bit more about the process. And there was just one lady who was cracking.
And this is the women divers off of Jeju Island.
Yes, sorry. Yes. The very kind of, I think the story goes that the fishermen went out to sea and didn't return. So I think the youngest Haenyo would be like 65, and then so forth. I think I was 27 at the time, and I felt kind of, maybe I could have kept up with them. No, they are incredible. They are incredible. And as I was waiting by the rocks, one of the ladies was just cracking sea urchin and scooping it up, and I would be trying to ask her questions, and she wouldn't even listen to me. She would just be kind of just feeding me this sea urchin, which I just found so, like, that's kind of Korean culture, right? They just want to feed you and so forth. And that then transpired into a dish based on, which was sea urchin on the rocks, which then became a dish at the restaurant. And that's not something you can think about going into, like, oh, I want to get this ingredient. And if you go in that contrived mentality of like, I need to get a dish for this place, then you never find inspiration. But when you have these moments and then you go back and you're like, wow, that was really cool, that's when you can really build a menu.
If you're describing Korean ingredients or Korean people to an outsider, what is a common misconception or common things that they don't know about the Korean ingredients or Korean food? Or Korean people?
Korean people, I think everyone kind of asks when I first come, is like, oh, it must be really hard to open a restaurant here in Korea. And I found it quite opposite. I think especially when I get outside to Seoul and travel, I find that people warm and welcoming, and they're always just, apart from shoving food in your face, they're feeding you
they will do
of food. Forever, yeah. You can never leave any rice on the table, that's for sure. Outside, looking into Korea can feel like this kind of, I don't want to say strange place, but kind of like it must be quite difficult to get into it. The people must be quite reserved, but I found everyone warm and welcoming, and I think the same with the ingredients.
Yeah. And I also find that people think Korean food is somewhere in between Japanese and Chinese food. They think it's a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always going to be the way. I think if you look at history, Korea opened up a lot later to the rest of the world, and so it's taken a while for people to really understand. And it does, I don't want to say it gets me upset, but I kind of don't like the comparison between Doenjang and miso. When people explain, oh, Doenjang is kind of like Japanese miso. Yeah, I say it's kind of like that, but with flavor. It gets me in trouble. But it's the same because it's so much different. There's so much richness to it, or Korean alcohol is like this or it's like that, but it's its own thing. And I think that hopefully now as we go along, it's going to start to get its recognition that it doesn't need to be compared to other cuisines, that it can be its own forefront.
I hear the second Michelin star is a goal.
Yes.
Maybe in 2023?
You've been doing your research very well. Yes. Something that's always, it's good to have goals. We don't cook at the restaurant for Michelin to get the accolades, but I think it's still the best benchmark for restaurants. Our goal at this restaurant has always been to cook good food for people we like, and to showcase Korea in a different light. But getting accolades along the way helps us really promote Korea in the ingredients, and really it's very hard being a chef. So sometimes it's quite nice to win some awards and keep the team motivated as well.
And how do you bring Korea into this experience?
Through every single detail, think of the restaurant, from first and foremost the food, but there isn't much now that isn't from Korea. From even the knives, like the steel is from the East Coast, the handle is walnut wood from the middle of Korea, designed in a market shape, if you have a look in a second. From the knives to the napkins to the hanji in the menu paper, to everything that goes along, we're trying to show Korea not in a kind of overbearing way, but just the subtleties that it can incorporate into a restaurant.
Looking forward to that. So we hope to be back when you are a Michelin 2-star chef.
Yes.
And see you again.
Yes.
So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you. And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with another globalist who's putting Korea on the map. Sun Jie out.